Welcome back to the Audacity of Him. If you're new here, this is the channel where we take a long, hard, deeply satisfying look at the absolute peak of male entitlement and the glorious, unscripted moments when reality hits them like a freight train. We all know the type. The guy who thinks the world is his personal sandbox, the guy who mistakes basic human decency for weakness and views every woman simply as an NPC placed in his reality to either serve him, boost his ego, or provide content for his followers. Usually these guys get away with it. They talk over people, they push boundaries, they take up too much space, and society, exhausted by their relentless, suffocating mediocrity, just lets them. But sometimes, sometimes the universe aligns perfectly. Sometimes the audacity of a man is so blinding, so all-consuming, that he completely fails to notice the very obvious warning signs flashing right in front of his face. Sometimes the alpha male decides to flex his pathetic muscles on the absolute wrong woman. This story takes us to the heart of Marrakech, Morocco. Specifically, the ancient labyrinthine alleyways of the Medina spinning off from the famous night market. It was mid-August. The heat was a physical weight pressing down on the city even at 10 o'clock at night. The air was thick with the scent of roasted lamb, cumin, exhaust fumes from motorbikes weaving through the crowds, and the underlying metallic tang of unwashed cobblestones. I was standing near a small, dimly lit stall selling traditional ceramics. I was dressed completely down, a loose-fitting dark olive linen tunic, simple dark trousers, and a lightweight indigo scarf draped casually over my head and neck, blending seamlessly with the local women finishing their evening shopping. To anyone walking past, I was just a tired civilian examining a hand-painted clay tagine. But I am not a civilian. My name is Commander Amina, and I am the highest-ranking operative in the regional police's special tactical unit. Beneath the folds of my indigo scarf, a custom-molded earpiece fed me a constant, low-level stream of encrypted radio chatter. Tucked into the small of my back, completely concealed by the drape of my linen tunic, was a loaded, matte black sidearm. My entire team, 12 heavily armed, highly trained undercover operatives, was dispersed within a 50-yard radius of my position. We weren't there for petty thieves. We had been tracking a highly dangerous, incredibly paranoid international weapons smuggler for 6 months. Intel said he was making a drop in this specific sector of the souk tonight. The operation was on a razor's edge. One wrong move, one sudden noise, one panicked civilian, and our target would vanish back into the desert, taking millions of dollars of illicit firepower with him. The tension in the air was so thick you could choke on it. Every nerve in my body was completely electrified, vibrating with adrenaline that I had to meticulously suppress to maintain my cover as a bored shopper. And then he arrived. Yo, chat, we are out here in the absolute trenches of Morocco, baby. The voice cut through the ambient hum of the market like a fucking chainsaw. It was loud, nasal, and dripping with the kind of unearned confidence that only comes from having 50,000 teenage boys validating your every thought on the internet. In my earpiece, I heard my second in command, Tariq, who was currently posing as a clueless French tourist eating pistachio gelato 3 stalls down. "Commander," Tariq murmured over the encrypted channel, his voice tight with irritation. "Be advised, we have a disruption entering the primary surveillance zone. American tourist? Live streaming. He is making a significant scene." "I hear him, Tariq," I whispered back, my lips barely moving, pretending to inspect the glaze on a ceramic plate. "Maintain positions. Do not engage unless he compromises the target." I shifted my gaze just enough to catch him in my peripheral vision. His name, as he was loudly reminding his phone every 30 seconds, was Jaxson. He was the worst iteration of the travel hacking alpha male influencer trope. He moved through my country, my beautiful ancient city, like it was a cheap theme park built exclusively for his amusement. He was practically vibrating with toxic, performative energy. I watched in simmering disgust as he shoved his ring light into the face of an elderly woman selling fresh bread, ignoring her polite request to stop. "Look at this, chat," Jaxson bellowed into his phone, spinning the camera around to show the bewildered woman. Zero English. Completely primitive setup. But watch this. I'm going to use high-value negotiation tactics to get this bread for literally pennies. You got to dominate the locals, bros. You got to show them who controls the frame. "Commander," a sniper positioned on a rooftop overlooking the square chimed in. "This guy is blowing the ambient noise cover. He's drawing a crowd. If our target enters the square now, he'll spook immediately." "Hold the line," I ordered, my jaw clenching. "Let the idiot pass." But Jaxson wasn't passing. He was lingering. He was hunting for content. He tried to barter with a leather merchant, invading the man's personal space, putting his hand on the merchant's shoulder and laughing loudly when the man slapped his hand away. "Whoa, aggressive! The natives are restless tonight, chat!" Jaxson laughed, checking his screen to read the live comments. "Yeah, at Crypto King 99 says I should find a local girl. Bro, you know it. The women out here, submissive, traditional, not like the woke garbage back in LA. Let's go find a Moroccan cutie, chat. Let's see if the alpha charm translates." My blood ran cold, not from fear, but from a profound, calculating rage. I could feel the shift in his trajectory. He was walking directly toward the ceramic stall, directly toward me. I turned my back to him, picking up a small, intricately painted tea glass. I focused my breathing. Inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4. I was Commander Amina. I had dismantled human trafficking rings. I had survived a shootout in the high Atlas Mountains. I was not going to let a whey protein guzzling internet clown ruin a 6-month federal operation. "Yo, excuse me! Hey, scarf girl!" The blinding glare of the ring light hit the side of my face, casting harsh, moving shadows across the ceramics. I ignored him. I kept my eyes fixed on the tea glass. "Chat? She's playing hard to get," Jaxson narrated, stepping so close to me that I could smell the sickeningly sweet mixture of cheap body spray, stale energy drinks, and pure, unadulterated arrogance radiating off his skin. That's the thing about these traditional girls. They want to be pursued. They want an alpha to take charge. "Commander," Tariq's voice crackled in my ear, dead serious now. "He is in your physical space. Do you require an intercept?" "Negative," I breathed out. "I will handle it." Suddenly, a heavy, sweaty hand clamped down hard on my bicep. The physical contact was jarring. It wasn't a tap. It wasn't a gentle brush to get my attention. It was a firm, possessive, controlling grip. He squeezed my arm, attempting to physically turn my body toward his camera lens. "Come on, sweetheart. Say hi to the stream," Jaxson demanded, his voice dropping into a faux, deep, commanding register that he clearly thought was incredibly seductive. "Don't be shy. Tell the boys in chat how much you love American men." The world seemed to slow down. The noise of the market faded into a muted, rushing hum. All I could feel was the unwanted pressure of his fingers digging into my arm. All I could see was the reflection of the blinding ring light in his hollow, desperate eyes. This is the exact moment where the audacity peaks. The moment where he looks at a woman minding her own business and decides with absolute certainty that he has ownership over her body, her image, and her time simply because he desires it. I slowly turned my head to look at him. I didn't break my cover. I didn't reach for my badge or my weapon. I played the part he assigned me, but I set a boundary. "Please," I said in clear, unaccented, perfect English, "let go of my arm." Jaxson blinked, clearly surprised by the flawless English, but the surprise quickly morphed into a smug, predatory grin. He tightened his grip. "Oh, she speaks English! We got a feisty one! Chat!" He practically yelled into the phone. He leaned in closer, invading my space so completely that his shoulder brushed my chest. "Relax, babe. I'm just trying to make you famous. You're fetching for a local girl. Most of the chicks in this market are dusted, but you're all right. You should be thanking me." He laughed, a braying, obnoxious sound. He looked directly into the camera lens, checking his reflection, completely ignoring the fact that his hand was still clamped like a vice on my arm. The camera frame was perfectly tight, just his grinning, flushed face and my arm, the muscles beneath my tunic visibly flexing, pulling taut like steel cables. "Commander," it was the sniper on the roof. "Target vehicle spotted 2 blocks away. ETA 3 minutes. We need this civilian cleared, now." The operation was live. The window was closing, and this absolute fucking parasite was holding my arm, laughing about my fetching appearance to a bunch of incels on the internet. He didn't just cross a line. He set the line on fire and danced in the ashes. "I said," I repeated, my voice dropping an octave, losing all pretense of the timid local girl, "let go." "And I said, you're gonna be on the stream, babe," Jaxson sneered, shifting his weight, attempting to use his size to physically muscle me around to face the light. He made 2 critical, life-altering mistakes in that fraction of a second. First, he assumed that because I was a foot shorter and 50 pounds lighter than him, I was physically helpless. Second, as he shifted his weight to pull me, he leaned back, breaking his own center of gravity and putting all of his momentum entirely into my control. I didn't speak again. I just moved. My left hand, the one resting on my thigh, tapped twice. A very specific, almost silent hand signal to my squad. Execute hostile takedown. Jaxson never even saw it coming. He went from a state of supreme, obnoxious dominance to total, helpless freefall in roughly 300 milliseconds. I stepped into his personal space, sliding my right foot perfectly behind his lead leg to block any chance of him retreating. In the same fluid motion, my left hand shot up like a striking viper, locking over the back of the hand he had clamped on my bicep. I didn't try to pull away. Pulling away is what prey does. Instead, I used his own grip against him. I applied a brutal textbook kotegaeshi, a tactical wrist crush and twisting lock. I drove my thumb directly into the sensitive nerve cluster on the back of his hand while violently torquing his wrist outward, bending his hand back toward his own forearm at an angle that God never intended. The biomechanical pain was instantaneous and overwhelming. His grip on my arm instantly dissolved as his brain screamed at him that his wrist was about to snap in half. But I didn't stop there. I used his backward momentum, combined with the agonizing torque on his wrist, to guide him straight down to the earth. Jaxson hit the ancient Moroccan cobblestones with a deafening, wet thud that seemed to echo through the entire market. All 200 pounds of his gym-sculpted alpha male physique slammed into the ground. The breath left his lungs in a sharp, pathetic wheeze. A split second later, his expensive smartphone and blinding ring light crashed onto the stones next to his head, shattering into a dozen pieces of useless, twinkling plastic and glass. Before he could even inhale to scream, before his stunned brain could even process that the submissive local girl had just dismantled him, I dropped my full body weight, driving my knee directly into the back of his neck. I pinned him to the dirt, pressing his perfectly gelled hair and expensive sunglasses right into the grime of the souk. "Do not move," I hissed, my voice ice cold, pressing the lock tighter until he let out a choked, whimpering gasp. Suddenly, the clueless French tourist eating gelato materialized out of the crowd like a ghost. Tariq dropped his ice cream cone and hit the ground, driving both of his knees into Jaxson's lower back and expertly pinning his legs so the influencer couldn't thrash. It was a masterclass in tactical efficiency. In less than 4 seconds, the loudest, most obnoxious man in Marrakech had been reduced to a helpless, immobilized package on the floor. I reached to my belt, producing a thick, heavy-duty tactical zip tie. I yanked his other arm back, wrapping the thick plastic around his wrists and pulling it tight with a loud, aggressive ZP. The sound was music to my ears. Jaxson was hyperventilating, his face pressed sideways against the dirt. The bravado was entirely gone. The alpha male had left the building. What the fuck? He sobbed, his voice cracking, spitting dirt out of his mouth. Are you crazy? I'm an American citizen. I have rights. I'll fucking sue you. I leaned down, my mouth right next to his ear. The scent of his cheap cologne was now mixed with the distinct smell of his own terror. You are currently interfering with a federal sting operation, you miserable little boy, I whispered, my tone devoid of any emotion. You are under arrest for assaulting an officer of the Special Tactical Unit. If you speak again, if you so much as twitch, I will assume you are reaching for a weapon, and I will put you to sleep. Nod if you understand me. He nodded frantically, his eyes wide and leaking pathetic tears of shock and pain, scraping his cheek against the rough stone. A foot away from Jaxson's face, his phone was somehow still broadcasting. The screen was severely cracked, looking like a spiderweb of glowing light, and the camera was skewed at a harsh diagonal angle from the dirt. But the live chat? Oh, the live chat was a thing of beauty. It had gone from a stream of toxic emojis and W's to absolute unadulterated chaos. What just happened? Did she just kill him? Bro got folded, Lamo. Alpha male down, I repeat. Alpha male down. Wow, who is she? Jason Bourne? Rip Bozo. 50,000 people were watching their idol eat dirt, crying in a Moroccan market, zip-tied like a common criminal by the very woman he tried to humiliate. The crowd around us had backed away, forming a wide, silent circle. They knew police activity when they saw it. Commander, the sniper reported in my ear. Target vehicle spotted the commotion. They are burning rubber. They're gone. The drop is blown. I closed my eyes for a brief second, frustration burning in my chest. 6 months of work, ruined by this entitled parasite. I stood up, adjusting my tunic, leaving Tariq kneeling on Jaxson's back. From the crowd, a towering figure stepped forward into the glow of the flickering, broken ring light. It was Captain Youssef, the head of the regional precinct. He was in full, immaculate uniform, gold braiding gleaming on his shoulders, his face a mask of furious, unamused authority. He had been waiting at the perimeter to make the official arrest of our target. Instead, he was looking at this garbage. Captain Youssef looked down at Jaxson, who was whimpering on the ground. Then, Youssef noticed the cracked phone, still broadcasting the pathetic scene to the world. The captain didn't say a word. He didn't need to. The sheer weight of his disappointed, furious glare communicated everything. He looked directly into the camera lens, staring down the 50,000 teenage boys who thought this behavior was acceptable. He slowly reached his hand down. His massive palm covered the lens. Click. The feed went dead black. Jaxson spent the next 72 hours in a very dark, very hot holding cell in the basement of the Marrakech Central Precinct. He was charged with assaulting a police officer, interfering with a federal investigation, and public disturbance. When the U.S. Embassy finally negotiated his release and deportation, he was escorted to the airport in tears, flanked by heavily armed guards. His phone was confiscated as evidence. His channel went dark. He hasn't posted a travel hack or a piece of alpha male advice ever since. Because sometimes, guys, you can control the frame all you want. But out in the the real world hits back. Thanks for listening to the Audacity of Him. If you enjoyed watching a toxic influencer get absolutely dismantled on a molecular level, hit that like button, subscribe, and leave a comment down below about the worst tourist you've ever encountered. Stay safe out there, and remember, keep your hands to yourself.